Morning, my fellow Canadians. Well, coffee time and commentary. The last post I did regarding making Canada safer was probably the most widely hit post I've done. One of the comments from a gentleman who approved of the post itself took a little bit of an exception to my stance on property rights and the extent to which you could go to defend your property. And that's specifically what I wish to talk about today. I've never been robbed. I've never been mugged. I've never been robbed. But close friends have been, and anecdotal stories I've read of people who have been robbed, sometimes whether with or without violence, is immaterial. Specifically, let me mention one case. A very good friend of mine years ago was hit by, his apartment was hit by a highly organized and very effective and efficient team of in-and-outs. The cops who investigated said that there was a crew working the area and they were extremely adept. The cops said they weren't here for more than 3-4 minutes. Drilled out the lock, entered the apartment, went for the obvious, the jewelry box on the dresser, looked under the beds, and anything quick cash, no electronics, nothing big, cash and jewelry, or something that could be converted to cash easily, stuffed into a bag and walked out with. Now, among the things taken was his grandfather's pocket watch. It was a Waltham. Now, for those who know pocket watches, Waltham was like the Timex of its era. They made good quality watches, but not exceptional, and they were heavy gold fill, so a man of modest means could afford a pocket watch that looked like a beautiful heavy gold pocket watch. They made various models, it's immaterial. This was his grandfather's pocket watch. Replacement value at that time was between, let's say, $80 and $100. You could go to a flea market and find a pocket watch. So to replace the pocket watch itself would not have been difficult. The fact remains, the pocket watch that he could have gotten easily was not his grandfather's. Now, anybody who has items that belonged to a lost or gone loved one knows that holding these items, touching these items, even looking at these items evokes memories of someone who you loved and lost. It is irreplaceable. You can find, like I said, a representative type, but it's not the one. My grandfather carried this, my grandfather held this, and the memories, like I said, that come with that. That is the one thing about property that you cannot replace. Insurance cannot cover. There was a lady years back whose laptop was sitting in the back seat, and someone smashed the window and stole her laptop. Again, not an overly expensive item to replace. The insurance would cover, hopefully, the cost of the broken window and the laptop. Unfortunately, on this laptop were photographs of the child she had lost, her child who had died. All the photographs gone. She even pleaded, she says, put a public ad, please just return the hard drive. Keep the laptop, return the hard drive. Those are all the pictures I had. Should she have downloaded it to a USB, downloaded it to a PC? Yes, whatever. But the point remains, these things cannot be replaced. That's replacing the items themselves is one issue. The second one is the violation of your safe space. Again, anybody who's been robbed or mugged, when you go into your home and close that door, this is your safe space. The old saying about a man's home is his castle is very, very true. This is your place, your safe space, your little refuge, your bulwark against the world, if you will. To have that violated, that sense of violation, how do you quantify this? How do you compensate for this? The fact that you no longer feel safe in your own home. Now, I confess that my opinions on property rights and the defense of property in my last post were based on opinion. Since then, I was given a book by a good friend, a very good friend, gave it to me as a gift, and it was Barry Holland's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. If you haven't read it, I urge you to read it. Liberals and cops, well, some cops, are going to hate this book. It lays out in very good detail with legal precedent and case law and sections from the Criminal Code of Canada regarding personal defense and defense of your property, what you can and cannot do. It even lays out the phraseology you must use if you confront an intruder that will protect you legally, where use of force is allowed, how much force you can be allowed to use. It's all laid out. It is a tremendous read. If you haven't read it, it's not a shameless plug for his book, but I cannot urge you too strongly. Get it, read it, borrow it from a friend. It was amazing to me, and I'm not unlearned about the law completely, but it was amazing to me the degree of defense you are permitted under the law for both personal and property defense. Now, expect, as Liberal Ontario or Liberal Canada, expect, if you avail yourself of your rights under the law, fully expect to still be prosecuted by the Crown, which to me is a double violation. You've been robbed and then you're screwed over by the Crown. It's lawfare. Okay, what you did was legal, but we're going to jerk your chain and make you defend your actions in court, which will make you hire a lawyer and be out of pocket for charges that should never have been laid. And again, I refer to Ian Thompson as a perfect example. All charges were eventually dropped, but it cost him $60,000 to do so. Nice, eh? My experience with the law, of course, was in the military, which is very different from civilian life. In the military, you are governed by the Queen's Regulations and Orders for the Canadian Armed Forces. We called the QR&Os. Civilians are governed by the Criminal Code of Canada, CCFC. So I was unfamiliar with a lot of the segments of the law. My buddy just fell in love with it. The book regarding, it lays it all out. It is a tremendous book and a tremendous read, I think, for every Canadian. My brother made a good point. Few things infuriate police officers more than having a civilian tell them the law. And I point out in rebuttal that very often what the cops were being told by these civilians who thought they knew what they were talking about was often inaccurate or untrue. But if you know your rights under the law and you elucidate these rights to a cop, yeah, it might piss them off, but legally you're protecting yourself. We know that under the Liberals, anybody with a lick of common sense knows that under the Liberals we are being slowly but surely turned into an almost autocratic and totalitarian state. I've recently heard of a case where a gentleman who had his firearms out for maintenance had some things that were questionable on the table, but the cops confiscated all his firearms. Unsafe storage. They weren't in storage. They were under his direct care and control. Now, he'll probably beat that in court, but it will cost him. The charges should never have been laid in the first place. We have a government, and Bill Blair is a perfect example, who actually said, I don't think firearms should be used in personal defense. What an idiot. The Minister of Public Safety, an ex-Toronto police chief, doesn't know that the law allows for personal defense and using a firearm if it is necessary. How stupid can you be to say something like that to the Canadian people? But what the Liberals are doing is, bit by bit, chipping away at your rights under the law, let alone under common law, and God-given rights to feel safe in your own home and to feel safe and secure that your property that you've worked for and earned is yours and not subject to casual theft. We are being caught and wooled, and we are being screwed, people. We are being screwed left, right, and middle under this current government. They're trying to cotton wool us, and they're using the classic, we will take care of you. Abrogate your rights to the state. and the state will take care of you. Soviet Union, anybody? Communist Russia, anybody? We have seen how when civilians have abrogated their rights to a government, and especially a self-absorbed and inefficient government like ours, how that ends up. Historical precedent is all there. It is highly distressing to me to see the Canadian values with which I was raised being eroded to the extent that they are. We now see the riots occurring in the United States, and we're seeing the value in armed citizenry with the ability in the states where they are allowed it, the ability to protect themselves, and how in the face of true resistance, these rioters seem to melt away. Easy prey. Though personally I fail to see how breaking into a liquor store and stealing booze honors the memory of Floyd George, but that's just me. So my fellow Canadians, Barry Holland, the book is entitled No More Mr. Nice Guy. I cannot urge you to strongly beg, borrow, buy this book. It will lay out for you definitively how you stand under the law. That I should have the right to defend myself and my loved ones and my property, to me, is a basic tenet of a civilized society. That I should be denied or have those rights eroded with the false claim that the state will protect me. What are they going to do? Post a cop 24/7 outside my door just in case? Outside my building just in case? Anybody who's had to call the authorities knows what the response time can be. I'm not going to reiterate all the points from my old post about response time and armed citizenry. This is all there if you wish to look at it again. What I am saying is know your rights under the law. Memorize these rights under the law, and if need be, if you've got a better memory than mine, memorize chapter and verse, the sections of the criminal code that apply to your actions. But read that book. Okay? So that's my morning commentary. Thank you, my fellow Canadians. Stay safe and be well.